Great. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Welcome in from the waiting room. And welcome to the Connecticut Green Building Council Sustainability Career Showcase Materials and Construction Panel. My name is Joya Cannell. I am Vice Chair of Connecticut Green Building Council and one of your moderators today. And as people continue to trickle in, my partner Kai and I will get the panel kicked off, and we would love to hear from you in the chat. We would love to know what's your name, what's your organization, what's your title, where are you coming from today, and what are you looking to learn from this event? Yes, okay, wonderful. And I am very happy to see you all here for this labor of love that we have. The Sustainability Career Showcase was inspired by the desire to more directly fulfill our mission as an organization, and that is to accelerate the health and sustainability of the built environment in our state by supporting its future workforce. Demystifying career paths and growing professional networks is key to this, and we have a really wonderful set of mentors keen to support students and emerging professionals here today. And before we get started, I'd like to just say a couple more words to introduce CTGBC. We are a membership group of architects, policy experts, consultants, contractors, builders, educators, and more committed to transforming the way our towns and cities are designed, constructed, and operated. We do this through education, advocacy, and community development in the building trades. Our students and emerging professionals are really the key to achieving these outcomes. Freshly educated in the best practices, we want to make sure that we are encouraging and paving the way for the next generation's commitment to innovation and our collective future. We recognize that making these inroads directly with industry is so important, and that's why we are all here. And a couple notes on housekeeping. We're recording this panel and we'll make it available on our website. And in terms of your participation, we would love to hear from you in the chat. Feel free to ask questions or make comments as you think of them. We will be monitoring that chat, and we will have some time for Q&A, or substantial time for Q&A at the end of the moderated session. You can raise your hand at the end, and you'll be called on to unmute yourself, or feel free to pop questions in the chat continuously again. And if you're having any tech issues, be sure to send a chat to either Kai or myself, and we will be happy to help you out. And finally, we have a number of upcoming events. Please do keep an eye out to our calendar. Link is in this slide for our next session on finance and development happening April 5th, public and policy happening on April 19th. All are at 4:30 on Zoom, same as this. And we also have a career summit coming up. You will be hearing about that very shortly through social media and through our website and emails. We are planning an in-person collection of panelists across these sessions for a chance to meet and greet and network. A really great way to really solidify your network and the point of this session as a whole, which is really making those connections. And in addition to that, definitely keep an eye out to our calendar, because we also have a wealth of other opportunities for ways to get involved, including committees and communities. After our first showcase, we had a number of folks wondering how else people can stay involved with Connecticut Green Building Council, and direct links to meetings like this and others are in that calendar. And all of these sessions are made possible thanks to our generous sponsors. ASSA ABLOY has been leading the way for building supply companies and sustainability for a long time. Their commitment to helping to drive forward the industry and tackling and reducing greenhouse gas contributions. And they even have an educational arm for employees, clients, and industry. We are very lucky to have a representative from ASSA ABLOY on today. She can speak more to that. And Mitsubishi Electric is critical to much of our work as building professionals. Their electric HVAC solutions are key to delivering healthy and climate-friendly, low-emissions conditioning, and have been significant players in making sure the just transition for the built environment happens in our state. and beyond. So thank you, Mitsubishi, for that. And we'll also be hearing from a representative from Mitsubishi today. So looking forward to more. And final intro slide, I promise. We would love to have you join us. If you are not already, we would love to have you as members. Comes along with a lot of benefits as listed here: complimentary or discounted admission to events, professional development opportunities. We do have associations with the International Living Future Institute, and a lot of opportunities to demonstrate leadership and specialized knowledge. You too can host one of these events to share your knowledge and grow your network, whether it's educational or professional. So please take a look at our website to sign up, or email our communications@ctgbc.org for more. And with that, we'll start to dive in. Like I said, my name is Joya Cannell, and I am not just Vice Chair of CTGBC, I am also a consultant with Built Ecology at WSP. We are a global design, engineering, and consulting firm. I'm a Connecticut native and really love my state and my longtime community in New Haven, and am very happy to be here and continuing to grow my network onward and outward with all of you. And with that, I will pass the mic to Kai, my co-moderator for this session.
Thanks, Joya. I appreciate it. Thanks for everyone to be here today. My name's Kai. I chair the Connecticut Green Building Council. I also work at the employee-owned firm Stephen Winter Associates. We're headquartered in Norwalk, Connecticut, where I'm a senior sustainability consultant. I specialize in green programs. If it's out there, we've probably done it. I live in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I'm really excited to be here to hear from our panel, about their professional journey, how they got to where they are today, and insights about the careers of today and tomorrow. Next slide. So with that, we are fortunate to have a number of subject matter experts here to talk to us about materials, what they know, where they've been. So we'll be hearing from them in alphabetical order, and they'll tell us about themselves as they give about a 5-minute intro, to be followed by moderated questions and discussion. So today we're joined by Chris Ouellette with Mitsubishi Electric Heating and Cooling, Aaron from ASSA ABLOY, Nicole with Innova Building Advisors, and Stephen with Consigli Construction. And with that, I'll pass it over to Chris from Mitsubishi. Thanks, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thanks for having me today. So real quick, I don't think I'll take my whole 5 minutes today, but I want to put my timer on just to make sure. So I am a business development manager for Mitsubishi Electric Heating and Cooling. We make HVAC equipment, and we're locally based out of Southborough, Massachusetts. Although my current role is business development, prior to that, I've been an HVAC sales engineer for the past 20+ years. And I get into this market in a non-traditional path, which I find to be maybe an interesting topic for today. I started after college. I had a good math and science background, but I decided not to go that route. Ended up on a commercial fishing boat for about 4 years, actually fishing out of Connecticut. Earned my living out in Long Island Sound. When that didn't really pan out, I tried something else. Eventually, somebody offered me an opportunity. I had a habit of saying yes, and it was HVAC sales. I quickly found a passion for it, put my head and my mind and my efforts into it, and absolutely fell in love. I found a passion.
Chris,
I got it that time. Yeah, next slide, please. So what do commercial sales engineers do in my marketplace? Well, we do wear many hats. So we collaborate directly with our mechanical engineering firms and plumbing engineering firms in the marketplace, and help them with their plan and spec marketplace, helping them get our high efficiency equipment on the buildings and homes and housing developments, schools that they're working on. We also work in a similar regard with architects and their clients. We guide them through their decision-making process on if our equipment's even right for their building, or which parts of their buildings our equipment might be correct for. Beyond that, we also work with mechanical contractors and offer field support and technical assistance. So we're with all levels of that industry. Also on here, we have a partner from Consigli. We do work with our general contracting partners as well to help guide them in their best decision-making processes. Working for a manufacturer in this level, we consider ourselves an expert, literally an expert in the field as a collective. Next slide, please. So what are our goals with our equipment? So we make heat pumps, all electric heat pumps, and we're working in that decarbonization and electrification marketplace. So currently, and most applicable for our equipment on the left is where we'll use these heat pumps for heating and cooling a commercial building or space. In the middle, we also use these heat pumps now for commercial ventilation of the space. All commercial spaces need ventilation equipment. And even more recently, we are now able to use heat pumps, in particular CO2 refrigerant heat pumps for commercial scale domestic hot water systems. A project of note, I wish I would have put a slide up today. We have a project of note in Connecticut where we're using all three of these technologies on one building, and that is Hotel Marcel down in New Haven, Connecticut. And in that case, we have our BRF systems heating and cooling the spaces, ventilating, and providing domestic hot water for the entire hotel. It's 100 and some odd rooms. It's unique in that that project is very unique, and I encourage you to look it up further, in that it is the first, as far as we know, it's the first, going to be first all-electric passive hotel in the United States. So it's quite an accomplishment. It's a new bar for our industry, and just you'll find out as our talk today, I have a lot of enthusiasm and projects like that, and people, visionaries like that help us move forward are reasons that I'm so excited for our business. Thank you. Oops. And the big picture, as Mitsubishi, I do work for a giant manufacturing company. I work for a small part, that's the HVAC division. We also have a frequency drive or drive division, elevators and escalators, make video display walls, power supplies, and escalators. So as far as opportunity in the marketplace, working for a large manufacturer like I do, there are really limitless opportunities and paths for me to choose as I move forward in the career here. Thank you.
Great, Chris. Thanks for the great background. I'm going to get your tips on fishing later.
Yeah.
And just a quick shout out that, yeah, LEED Platinum and Passive House certified, which is pending for that Hotel Marcel. So thanks for mentioning that. Yeah.
And net zero.
Yeah, well, we're looking for, yeah, we're excited to make that a fact. Data. Anyway, sorry to digress. Over to Erin. Thanks for joining us today. Will you share with us?
Hi, thanks everybody for joining. My name is Erin Spadavecchia. I'm the program manager for sustainability at ASSA ABLOY Door Security Solutions, locally based in New Haven, Connecticut. And I live in the Hudson Valley area of New York. Next slide. So just as many of you folks have probably experienced yourself, my career trajectory, you know, you start off on one straight road and then there's some curves that come up and back and forth. So I started in college at Worcester Polytech, studying bio and biotechnology. And then I really got more interested in the environmental side of my education. So I started going into studying that. I was part of the environmental club, which was definitely not cool back then, but I did it anyway. And then also I interned at the Metal Processing Institute. So that kind of drove my career and some of the trajectory you'll see on the screen, combining technical sales as well as my love for materials and sustainability. through various roles. So that's always been a common thread throughout them all. Most recently at ASSA ABLOY Door Security Solutions, I was an architectural consultant for a little over 7 years throughout Metro New York, Western Connecticut, and also the capital region of New York. A position did open up in our sustainability team, and I jumped right on that because that was a position that I had been eyeing for a while. And just, you ask the question and then you post for the position and your life changes. So it's always good to put out there into the world what you're interested in. Next slide. So here we are, present day in the life. So I joined the sustainability team with our Director of Sustainability, Amy Musanti. Amy's on the call today. Thanks for joining. So as a program manager for sustainability at ASSA ABLOY, I work with our product managers, our third-party consultants to maintain and grow our transparency document library. So anything from EPDs, HPDs, Declare, Green Guard Gold, Green Circle certifications, and then submitting those for any green building certification programs that our customers may need. Also collaborating with our marketing team to promote our sustainable solutions, which could be anything from thermally resistant exterior solutions, low energy and regenerative access control, acoustic controlled openings, and products with low off-gassing. Also, we offer a lot of educational tools for sustainability and programming, and we collaborate and support our industry affiliates, just like Connecticut Green Building Council. So thank you again for the opportunity. Next slide. My project I'm most proud of is also Hotel Marcel. So big shout out to Kai and Chris for your involvement with that as well. Hotel Marcel is actually pretty much our neighbor down the street. We're also very proud of the sustainability goals, also just the collaboration and teamwork between the project team, as well as our internal team in regards to the coordination that went into it for our brands and all of our different divisions that were involved. And of course, it made the front and back cover our sustainability report for ASSA ABLOY, our global report. So check that out. Next slide. And then just some key skills and lessons that I've learned. Skills that I value: organization. We're all hit with so many things, whether it be text messages, calls, Teams, Zooms, projects that we're working on, social media. So it's imperative to be organized. Adaptability. As they say, the only thing that's consistent is change. So if you're not willing to be flexible and change, you're going to have some problems. And then, of course, empathy. We want to make sure that we're empathetic to our colleagues, our customers, our networks, helping out wherever you can if someone's up against a challenge, and just providing that support that people need professionally and personally. And then lessons that I've learned: identify people that you admire, find mentors, follow people that you admire online and their trajectory, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for what you want. If no one knows what you're interested in, you won't be considered. So just put it out there. And then don't be afraid to take a risk. The reward could be much better than you've ever dreamed of. Next slide. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Erin. So interesting. I love hearing these stories from people. Up next, we have Nicole. I'll leave it over to you, Nicole. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm Nicole Berger. I'm a senior energy consultant with Innova Building Advisors. We're based out of Philly with an office in Boston, and that's where I'm currently located. I work on projects from New York to Maine, and I provide green building consulting, program certification, field verification, diagnostic testing for new and existing buildings, focused on multifamily affordable housing, and I assist with utility rebates and incentives. So I never thought I'd be where I am today. So I worked in healthcare for 14 years. Most of those years I spent treating pediatric cancer patients in underserved communities. Once I had my own children, I could not, I opted to leave that field, and I went back to school I enrolled at UHart as a non-traditional student in the College of Engineering and Technology and Architecture in 2010. And in 2011, Hurricane Irene destroyed my town and my surrounding towns and knocked out our power for 12 days. And it was my aha moment. I started researching high performance building strategies that offered passive survivability. And I came across Yes Tomorrow Design Build and began focusing. I started taking courses there. And I began focusing on a system thinking approach of understanding how the building behaves in the built environment. So a more holistic approach of understanding the interconnections and relationships. So while my peers at UHart Ink on Board for our finals were focused on Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water or Glass House, I chose the Archie Bunker, which was built by Yes Tomorrow students, no plans. They just had these concrete forms that they just started filling and manipulating and building under the guidance of David Sellers, who was the architect and taught at Yes Tomorrow. Now I wouldn't think that concrete's so cool because of the embodied carbon, but back then it was, it was pretty cool. So I went on to get my I became a certified passive house consultant at Yes Tomorrow as well. And then continued on to become a FIAS Plus verifier and rater and HERS rater because I enjoyed the energy modeling side as well as the field, being out in the field and kind of chasing air and doing diagnostic testing so that I could add value at the beginning of the design as the consultant saying, hey, I saw in the field that this doesn't quite work. Perhaps we should, think of other strategies to make things work. Next slide, please. So these are some of the projects that I've completed. The three of these are passive house. So Oak Tree Village in Griswold, Connecticut was the first project that I was the verifier on. And it was really interesting to talk to the tenants and see that what we designed as being energy efficient and low loads and should cost very minimal in utilities was $41 a month was basically the average utility bill that the tenants were getting. So that was really nice to see. And then Rocky Neck Village was my next project in East Lyme, which was nice because it wasn't East Lyme didn't have that NIMBY where they didn't want it in their town, so it was welcomed. And then Westbrook Village is right around the corner from UHart, which is a great project. Next slide, please. And currently, I am working in Massachusetts as well, and there's an opt-in stretch code that is pushing for passive house as as one of the only ways that multifamily can build to, which is a bit challenging, but also really exciting. And projects that I'm really excited for is Pride in Hyde Park. It's an adaptive school. It's a historic school that we're doing adaptive reuse for seniors. And Blessed Sacrament Church in Jamaica Plain is going to be a really cool adaptive reuse once we can figure out where we can get that $1 million that we are still over budget. But so that's kind of where I am now. And I'm still focused on healthy buildings, energy efficient buildings, great indoor air quality, balanced ventilation, thermal bridge free, super insulated, airtight, low load buildings. So thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Nicole. Appreciate the background and all the interesting projects, sharing that. And we have our very own Stephen Burke up next. Over to you.
All right. Thanks everybody for having me. And I think this is probably, I don't know how helpful this is, but I feel like hearing the journey of where people start from and where they end up sometimes is useful, I suppose. and knowing that even if there's not a plan in place, sometimes it ends up where you want it to anyway. When I was going to school, which sounds like the start of someone very old talking, but back when I was going to college, there were no sustainability programs. So I combined a focus in business and environmental science to kind of create that path for myself. And I started to realize that I was very interested in buildings in particular and sustainability towards the end of college, and started to do some internships. And then I graduated in 2008, which was the worst time anyone could have ever graduated, and used that opportunity of entering the height of a recession to continue my education. I got certified as a solar installer. I worked at a farm, I worked at a startup, I worked at a flooring manufacturer, and realized that I really wanted something more. So I looked at grad school, and I was probably the second class of people accepted into Columbia University's Sustainability Management program. So I got a Master of Science, really focused on business and science together, much like my college degree. Graduated from there in 2013, got a job in Boston at a design firm as a sustainability coordinator, and upgraded to a larger integrated design firm in Cambridge, and worked there for a little bit as a sustainability coordinator before being promoted to sustainability manager. And then after a few years there, realized that I could probably get bigger impact outside of the design community, started exploring options, and ended up at a construction company where I've been at since 2017. And in 2020, I became sustainability director there after a couple of years as sustainability manager. So I guess the takeaway is, even though they say, some generations of people, they characterize them as wanting things right away, if you just stick with what you're passionate about and continue to work at it, the promotions and the things that you want will come, and as long as you seek out those opportunities. Next slide. And just real quick, I thought this was a cool project to share. This is where things are now. I get to work on this Living Building Challenge project, the Treehouse Conference Center here in the Boston, Cambridge area. And it's a Living Building Challenge, as I mentioned, but also a full mass timber project. So lots of cool things happening with this project that I'm very fortunate to be a part of. Next slide. And these are just some tips I have of stuff that has helped me. Definitely networking and building your network. That's definitely not an overnight thing. It's continue to work at it, continue to stay in touch with people. You don't know when it's going to be able to help you. It might take years, but those connections end up meaning a lot over time. So you have to plant the seeds and continue to invest in that. And similarly to that, learn everything you can, read as much as you can, understand as much as you can. That never goes away, especially in the sustainability industry. You have to continue to adapt to what the trends are and what people are talking about. And the more that you can do that, the more that you can get accreditations and be the expert, the better position you are to help your company and help yourself over time. Mentoring is a little hard just because it's a smaller community. There's not always a mentor, at least for me, there wasn't. I've had the fortune of talking with people that have kind of come before me, but maybe now it's sort of the next generation, you'll have a better chance at that, and it can really make a big difference. Another big one that I really recommend is that you document your accomplishments. Like, create every time you have a milestone in your career, a meaningful project, or something important that you're working on, put it down on paper in some way, shape, or form that you can use later to show a body of work the next time you're pursuing a job opportunity. Because if you don't have that, I guarantee you're going to forget half of what you've done. And it's important, I think, for your own self-worth to show, and you can use it when you're in internal reviews at your company, but also that marketability to show more than just a resume, the actual things that you worked on to help, make a change. Volunteering is great. And then another last point is just, I recommend, this is something I do, look at job openings, even when you're not looking for a job. Just see what the positions are that are out there related to sustainability and what the qualifications are that they're asking for, so that you're not, caught flat-footed when you do need that opportunity or starting to look for something new, that you already know the direction that people are looking for in terms of programs or accreditations that fall in line with the opportunities you want. So I figured some of those might be some useful tips for people.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Super. Yeah, that's sounds like a successful formula. Love it. So we've seen we're going to enter the Q&A portion of the program. So participants, attendees, you can use the chat to ask questions or make comments as you think of them. The chat will be monitored by me or Joya, and we'll also have time to answer your questions at the end of the moderated session. So when that happens, you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you, the participants at the end to you can unmute yourself and ask your question that way. So as we've seen, this field has many diverse opportunities related to materials and construction. And so I would put this over to Nicole. What advice would you give to someone just starting out in their career, seeking a path to go down?
Go to as many sessions, webinars, free conferences that you can, because I feel like that's where you meet the most diverse group of people, or could potentially meet the most diverse group of people. And you'll be surprised at what you learn from others, right? Just by even sitting, today I was at Tufts at their indoor air quality, and I thought I knew a lot about indoor air quality, right? Because that's what I kind of do. And listening to everybody around me and then networking is so important, even if you are established. So when you're just starting out, if you can get student rate to go somewhere, or emerging professional fee, rate to go somewhere, or there's anything free to go to, I highly suggest going and networking, because it's priceless.
That's great. Thanks, Nicole.
Yes, yeah, thank you. That really resonates with me, and kind of builds off of some of the things that I'm seeing in the chat of questions about like volunteer opportunities and ways to get face-to-face, like conferences, volunteering with your local organization. This is a great example. This panel is moderated by volunteers. Both Kai and myself are volunteers. And I want to quickly ask some questions sort of on the next step of that, about mentorship. Mentorship was brought up by both Steve and Aaron as being particularly important. And I think that especially Stephen, the way that you started to talk about it, I think that there are even some nuances to finding, say, a mentor versus identifying someone within your existing organization who has your back versus network, like general network. So for both Stephen and Aaron, I'd love to hear more on what you guys have to say about mentorship, and how to foster that and grow quality mentorship opportunities.
Aaron, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah, I'll step right in. So in regards to mentorship, it could be formal or informal in nature, as I mentioned, just following along other people in your industry and what they're doing on social media, or whether it's more formal. My manager that I report to, Amy Musanti, she is my mentor. I look for her for constructive criticism, how to guide me, giving me opportunities to step up to the next level. And people like her and other people in my career who have just had my back, people that are willing to say your name in a crowded room and a moment of opportunity. So it's really important, especially early on in your career, to just let somebody know, as I wish I would have done a little bit earlier, I need some help, what do you recommend that I do? And it just be a more informal thing. And then as you grow into a relationship with that person, it's more formal and they can really help guide your career and your trajectory. So I've really always leaned on those folks and appreciated that.
Yeah, and I guess to the aspect of someone within your organization being a mentor, I mean, hopefully your company has something like that set up, but if it doesn't, that I think is something to think about when you look at job opportunities and when you're interviewing the person you're going to work with. In a lot of ways, your boss should be your mentor, and there's a lot to learn from them in that regard. So that's something to think about. But I can just tell you what I did, which is because I didn't know who to ask to be a mentor. When I was starting out at a design firm as a sustainability coordinator, I saw someone else who was, I'd say like 5 or 6 years ahead of me in sustainable design and what they were doing, and they just seemed like a very prolific individual for what they were doing with sustainability and recognition they were getting. And I just kind of connected with them and latched onto them and took all of his ideas and made them my own, and told him that's what I was doing. So that was totally fine. He was totally supported it. And we're in an industry where I think that's encouraged, because unlike many others where we're seen as competitors, in this instance, sustainability is the tide that's lifting all boats. So you just have to find that right person who has that combination of willingness to contribute to you and the experience that'll help push you along. And it can really make all the difference in how you strategically advance your career, because a lot of my best ideas have come from those types of people in those situations.
Great, thank you both. So we're getting some interesting comments in the chat. I just wanted to give a little time for those as well. So any advice or starting point resources for people looking to be more involved in passive house design? And then follow up to that, just interest in the mass timber project in Boston, which might be a sidebar. But as far as getting started in, starting point in passive house, Chris or Nicole, do you want to chime in there? Maybe Chris?
For me, getting started in passive house was much like, I think it was Nicole's suggestion, was go to a bunch of meetings. Go see that there's different passive groups and different processes that they're all involved in, and finding the ones that interest you the most and attacking those people. I think Stephen and Aaron put it pretty well. It's in our industry, it's you're allowed to ask for things, and it's sort of in a take way. Hey, I'm looking for more information. People in the passive house community responded very well to that. They want to share all this great information. That's why we're in this marketplace, because we have a passion for what we do. So if you carry that passion into that marketplace, I think you'll get good feedback. Good feedback by doing that. That's kind of what I'd take from it.
Yeah, and if I could chime in, I would highly suggest that Eversource is offering, I think it might be 75% reimbursement now for passive house, certified passive house consulting. If you pass, right? So you have to take it, you have to take the full course and then finish and get your, and pass all the testing. So that's one way you could get your foot in or you could get more acclimated with passive house. Or again, Yes Tomorrow in Vermont offers various passive house trainings. If you wanted to go and be with a group. I mean, I went with 30 other people and we are still pretty tight. We get together and we cross paths a lot. So it's nice to be in person, but with Massachusetts pushing for passive house as a means for their opt-in code, it's well worth your time to figure out how you want to get to learn more about passive house. There's a lot of options. Like Chris was saying, you could just join Passive House Connecticut or Passive House Mass and start there. and just reach out to somebody who's a consultant and see if they'll spend time sharing some insight with you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yes, thank you. Oh, yes, it looks like we have a couple of questions about mass timber and green materials in general. I think that would be probably, oh, this is building off of the Boston question, right? I think green materials would be a great question for Stephen, or especially other Boston-based folks that might have insight into that project in particular. Although Erin also has a wealth of experience in healthy material specification. So I think that one's a free for all. Maybe Stephen, then Erin, we can start with for green materials and mass timber.
Sure, yeah. I feel like in order to really properly service this question, someone can reach out to me after the presentation because it's a long answer. I'll just tell you that it was really interesting that this project is a full mass timber project, but also pursuing the Living Building Challenge. And there's varying types of Living Building Challenge tiers or programs that you can pursue, but we are actually doing the materials pedal, which is the most stringent for material procurement. So for the mass timber in particular, we had to balance not just aesthetic designs and performance ability, because as you saw from the rendering, there's going to be exterior elements that are exposed to weathering and everything else, but also, getting down into the glues and all other aspects related to any potential treatment, chemicals, or anything else like that for the procurement process. And if you want to really, learn what it means to work with healthy, sustainable materials, I feel like trying to go through the Living Building Challenge Red List on any project is probably the most rigorous way you can do it. So happy to speak more about that in detail offline and go through the whole list. It's a very long story, to be sure.
Yes, please do. And I'm glad your contact information is right on the slide too. And we'll be sharing the presentation with everyone's contact information after the presentation as well. And while it's no mass timber, but I'm really curious to hear about what it's like from the other end of things, from material supplier perspective, which is why I was thinking that Erin might have some really interesting comments about the approach from the other end, and really growing healthy material opportunities and options from the source side. So if you have any comments.
Yes. So we definitely work on a lot of Living Building Challenge projects looking for declare labels. We currently do have a very robust list of declare library products. I'm very happy to say this year we are doubling our library. So we're really proud of that and looking forward to being able to submit more declare labels that all you folks are looking for. So that's very exciting. And of course, I think the requirements for healthy materials and transparency will only grow in the years to come, as well as the requirements for transparency in materials, but also the whole social health and equity aspect of sustainability, and also in regards to supply chain and initiatives such as Design for Freedom. So the more transparent we can be as manufacturers, the better, and the easier it is for us to be incorporated into projects and be an easy button for all of the partners that we work with. So we look forward to challenging ourselves and you challenging us. If there's any opportunities that you see with manufacturers and reaching out to them for declare labels that they don't already have, or HPDs, definitely reach out to them and ask for that and advocate for that, because we love hearing from people and seeing what products people are looking for that transparency on.
Thank you, Erin. And that's also great to hear. I do a fair bit of materials transparency work from the design construction side in my position. And it's great to hear when, the folks that you're reaching out to begging for these materials from actually are happy to hear from you. So that's really wonderful. Thank you. And before we move on to the next question, I wanted to thoroughly exhaust that one by double checking. Nicole, being Boston based, you don't happen to just through your network have any information or thoughts about mass timber? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
thank you.
And if I could jump in for Nicole, so what's happening with Passive House in Massachusetts? I heard there's a couple things happening up there. Maybe folks that are interested in getting involved in Passive House. What's going on up there?
With the opt stretch code.
Yeah.
So we have, I think it might be, and Stephen, you might know if there's more, but I thought I heard as of today, there's 6 municipalities that have opted in or have chosen the opt-in code, which is passive, which means they have to follow Passive House to certify, or and it's growing. The list is growing, and Boston, I believe, is either going to or did, but once Boston does if they do the opt-in, they could turn around and possibly say that instead of it being a 6-month grace period, that tomorrow everybody has to comply with Passive House. So what I've been doing with my teams is, because I heard this was rumor last year, and but we wanted to be proactive, so we basically have designed our projects to be Passive House, just in case it's by the time that they are permitted, that Passive House is in fact their opt-in code. So all the municipalities have the chance to opt in, which is Passive House. So there's a scramble going on up here for Passive House consultants, Passive House verifiers, right? There's not enough of us, and there's a lot of projects. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it unfolds. But my projects are prepared to go Passive House. Sadly, it's really difficult for my adaptive reuse that have new construction components, because those have to comply with Passive House. And I'm not sure if then the existing, because it's change of occupancy, has to comply as well. So, and no one can really answer those questions. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for that insight. So folks that were asking about how to, what is the hot topics in sustainability? What's coming up? Passive House is a large component of that, but also related to materials, the Design for Freedom that was mentioned. We put a link in the chat for that. That's a Connecticut firm organization's initiative, Grace Farms. So do check that out if you're interested in material beyond their typical sustainability. All right, looking for other questions. Otherwise, we can go to one of the moderated questions, Troya.
Yeah. Actually, I think you sort of had a really good lead into it in terms of where you see the field going in the future. Like Passive House is definitely something that feels like what you're saying, Nicole, it's demonstrated up and coming, right? Like thanks to really innovative legislation in Massachusetts, it's being pushed forward, which is so important, but we're really still on the cusp. We're really still on the cusp of materials verification for social equity and social justice. Again, the Design for Freedom movement, which it works to eradicate forced labor from the material supply trades, which is the #1 industrial contributor to forced labor worldwide. So really critical. Those are 2 areas we've touched on. But if there are any other either industries or client types or even new forms of financing that you're finding to push the industry forward, we would love to hear. And that's that's a free for all for everybody. Feel free to chime in.
I'd like to, I think the industry will rally around the topic of uniformity, just through advocating for a lot of these programs that we're all involved in. Also, getting behind the Mindful Materials portal and all information being in a centralized location, using the same language, and also with LEED v5 coming out at the end of the year. Hopefully uniformity of submittal and LEED worksheets. I can't tell you how many different versions of LEED worksheets I see, all saying lots of different things in lots of different ways. So I think going forward, we'll all try to rally around uniformity in our industry and all speaking the same language.
Yeah, I think from a manufacturer's perspective and the passive house or just the energy sector, I think in the commercial marketplace, every building's energy use is being more pixelated, and you're getting a deeper dive into every building. And we're seeing it too from a manufacturer's perspective. All right, we know your equipment is efficient, but what's it now? We want to know what it's efficient at these rating points, and we're going to run your building here. We need to know what efficiencies your equipment is there. So it's kind of fun for us because it's kind of putting what we've been telling everyone out in the open and seeing if it's actually true. Back to the living building challenge question, and again, as a manufacturer, we struggle with that, not only with our refrigerants we use to cool and heat the buildings, but we source materials all over the globe, and getting the details of that material is challenging, although we get asked more and more for that information, and slowly our company is releasing it to us, which is great. Again, I think it's just a push of the industry to know more about what's going on at our building level. Great.
So those insights, those elements of data analytics, which it sounds like it's one of the things that captured you, Nicole. We've talked about this a lot. You started out in architecture, and you realized you liked learning how things got put together more. I think that's a really great insight, especially in terms of career opportunities, right? Like learning about analytics programs, platforms, learning about the parameters that are important to understand in order to push forward your building's performance, whether it is for operational carbon or embodied carbon. I think, Chris, you hit the nail on the head with that. You already answered a couple of our earlier, or another one of our moderated questions with it, so thank you. I realized we might actually have missed one of the ones in the chat. Someone, it looks like an attendee asked a question about what's the best route to, like, what if you're starting from square zero or square one, or you feel like you're in the beginning of it and everything is just, there's a lot and you're not so sure where to start or what frameworks to use to provide some insight into a very complicated field. Any thoughts to that? I know at least I have a couple, and some have been brought up, but
I would say one of my favorite conferences is the NESE conference that's happening in Boston, and it's very diverse, and there's something for everybody, and you can get student discounts and whatnot. But I do think something like that, and you can pick and choose what rooms you want to go in and what you want to hear, might lead you, it might confuse you more, or perhaps lead you to talk to somebody that was in the room next to you and then continue to ask questions while you're there for the day, even if you only go for the day. But I do think that going to an all-day workshop could provide some insight. I mean, I don't know. Or again, it could confuse you and you could be back to square one.
What's the name of the conference again? Let's see.
Oh, it's the Nessie conference. So it's actually this coming Monday and Tuesday, but it's really, it's a fantastic conference with a very diverse group of people. So it's an opportunity to see what's out there currently. It's current goings on. So it is really interesting.
And is that always based in Boston, or does it move around?
No, it's always Boston.
Okay.
Mhm.
There's a Building Energy Boston that's Nessie, and there's also one they do in New York City.
Right. That's right.
That's I actually had something to chime in on that because I saw the question was asked from an architecture student, but I mean, just to anybody really, how you answer that question of where you get started or where to go is answered specific to what it is you think you want to do. And what it is you think you want to do is informed by talking with people who are doing and seeing whether or not that sounds like something you want to do. I think there's probably generally a disconnect with people who don't know as much about a position but think there's like this allure. Like for many, they may see a sustainability position and think, oh, that's awesome, I want to work in sustainability. And then they get into it and realize how much they're working in spreadsheets and sitting in front of a computer and how much paperwork it actually is. And like, that's not always exciting to people. If you can't have the appreciation for the bigger picture, it's not always a good fit. And then from the architecture side, if you want to do sustainability, you might become an expert in daylight modeling and energy modeling and become your firm's sustainability modeling person. And that sounds great too, but then if that's all you do, then that becomes, monotonous and routine and not so exciting because you plateau quickly. So in order to really know what the fit is for you, I think you have to spend time reaching out to practitioners and asking them what they're doing and figure out, well, does that sound like something I want to do or not? And then certainly internships can help reveal whether or not there's a matchup between your concept or theory and how it is in practice. But I would also, as the last point on this, consider perusing, again, what is out there for sustainability positions. See the descriptions that you think match up to the types of things you want to do, and look at the qualifications that they're asking for. And in architecture, they're definitely going to tell you the types of programs they're expecting you to be proficient in. And there's nothing stopping you from, pursuing those programs, especially if you've got like a student discount to get access licenses and trial them out and stuff like that. So that's what I would recommend for that.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I would definitely echo that too. And I think we've heard a lot about different sort of building frameworks in terms of Living Building Challenge or LEED, which can offer some insight into conceptual baselines, like when you're talking with someone, for example, what are the usual things that are encompassed within the green building sphere, and then doing additional reading to identify, where those platforms are particularly strong and where they're weaker, and getting to know those nuances is always really useful when at least talking to folks and getting yourself in the position to get an interview for those job descriptions that Stephen's talking about. I think, oh, perfect. Okay. So with that, we're just about at our hour. I do want to direct everyone's attention to the chat, though. We've got some great opportunities in there too. So Connecticut Green Building Council, we have our own jobs board. Please take a look. Kai has generously put in career opportunities with his firm at Stephen Winter. So definitely take a look at those links as an example of the descriptions that you might want to mull through that Stephen Burke was talking about. But with that, we really appreciate all of your time, both panelists and our attendees today. And panelists, please do keep us posted for any openings, any other thoughts. We will be sending a package to attendees today, so happy to include any remaining elements that you'd like to share with folks there. And we welcome any questions or comments regarding the panel. Please email communications@ctgbc.org. Happy to take recommendations for the showcase design or how we might tailor offerings to better fit your needs. And yep, final thank you. Hope to see many of you at our next showcase, which will be April 5th on finance and development. And we'll be right back here on Zoom. And keep an eye out to your emails and through our social media for more on our in-person summit. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you for
guys.
having us.
Everybody.
Bye, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.